go pretty fast here because we're already like 30 minutes in. On Tuesday, Attorney General Jeff Sessions rescinded 24 Justice Department guidances issued by past administrations, most of them under Barack Obama, who sought, and some of which sought to make life in the U.S. slightly more navigable for asylum seekers and refugees. Among the 24 guidances that Sessions considered unnecessary, outdated, inconsistent with existing law, or otherwise improper, and that's a direct quote from himself, the Keebler-Elf racist, I should add, of an attorney general, which said that asylum seekers and refugees have a right to seek work in the United States. The guidance issued in May 2011 said that refugees and asylees, and I know didn't know what that's what they were called, but may possess a variety of documents that prove employment authorization. That they could obtain a Social Security card without employment restrictions, and that they're authorized to work indefinitely because of their status. The New York Daily News reports that Sessions also rescinded a guidance that asked employees to avoid citizens-only hiring policies, such asking for the prospective employee's immigration status. So pretty much what they wanted to do is say these people should not be asking for like these employers should not go back to the times of no Irish need apply and focus on just hiring citizens of the country and people who they felt comfortable working with. So that makes sense, but that's probably the thing you do want to do in this situation. But the American people, Sessions said, I don't want to read that. Gently suggesting that schools should be aimed to diversify their student bodies, or that companies shouldn't discriminate against people who fled violence, natural disasters, or war, all of which these guidances set up mostly by the Obama administration did. I mean, folks, this is just bad government and very disrespectful of the rule of law, because we really care about the rule of law. Fire Robert Mueller, fire him right now. Screw him. Please don't look at who the president or anyone else in this administration is, especially the guy that would trade the Mississippi River for 3 Wahlburgers franchises, i.e. Jeff Sessions. There's a lot of smart people, a lot of great minds in the administration. They're just everywhere. They're really everywhere. God bless America. Wow. Anyway, Trump is getting rid of all sorts of guidelines. Pretty much the common theme throughout the entire administration is Trump just getting rid of guidelines that encourage racial diversity here in college admissions, racial diversity in high school admissions, racial diversity in hiring processes. Very, 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 very possible. Anyway, we now move on. Very, 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 very common is what I meant to say. But now we turn our attention to Scott Pruitt, who's maybe getting sort of close to possibly being in trouble. Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt is inching forward towards the tipping point where seemingly endless scandals will force him out of his job, a senior administration official told CNN on Wednesday. Inching. $1,500 in tactical pants, literally making his 25-year-old staffers pay for his expensive hotel reservation. Some of you did. And asked the staffers to find the hotel reservations. He said, put them on your guys' credit cards. I'll pay you back. What? Well, that's not surprising. They're not going to pay him back. Whoever would decide to work for Scott Pruitt on their own volition, I hope it was the staffers who were like, I want to go join Scott Pruitt. He's getting rid of all those oil regulations. I hope he singled out those staffers to put the hotel reservations on their credit cards so they lose the most amount of money because they're awful people. But in the just world, Pruitt really would have reached far, 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 far beyond his tipping point already. He's faced dozens of controversies regarding his corrupt behavior, exorbitant spending habits, and use of aids for personal errands like finding a hand lotion. He's repeatedly tried to use his influence to get his wife a job, including with Chick-fil-A. She's still unemployed, by the way. Most brazenly, Pruitt recently asked Trump to give him Jeff Sessions' job as Attorney General. That's pretty amazing. Scott Pruitt's a straight-up savage, I gotta tell you. I got mad respect for the guy. But still, it's it's a little overwhelming. It's quite overwhelming, just to say the least. Anyway, so White House Deputy Press Secretary Hogan Gidley said Tuesday that Trump is looking into Pruitt's numerous reports, whatever that means. All right, we're going to move on now. And apparently he's also been recently caught stealing a ridiculous amount of money. Let's see. I'm just going to type in Scott Pruitt. There should be a website that compiles the list of all his scandals. I mean, I can make a website about that. Like, literally the first thing I get up, Scott, there's a headline that says, "Keep Scott Pruitt moist." He must have his moisturizing lotion. He appears to me. I'm just reading this. I'm reading this through here. I'm not gonna look at this. This is opinion here. We're going to look at it. I mean, how many people like this is just a breathtaking amount of corruption. So this is a partial list of his corruption. So far we had tasking an aide to line up work for his wife, making aid and security do personal tasks. He had a sweetheart condo deal from a lobbyist, $3 million spent on his personal security deal. He used a security detail for personal trips, first class travel on public dime, and you're gonna hear a little bit.
As cyber threats grow,
Yeah, I mean, that's just a very, 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 very partial list of his corruption. Anyway, we're going to move on now. We're heading to Illinois Governor Bruce Rauner. He won't tell voters to back a Democrat over a literal Nazi. That's where he is right now. And if you know you're in trouble, you know you're in trouble when Ted Cruz sounds like the moderating voice in your party. But that's where Republican Illinois Governor Bruce Rauner finds himself after, again, saying voters shouldn't go nuts and say, vote for a Democrat in Congress just because the guy running against him is a literal Nazi. This week, Bruce Rauner dutifully condemned the candidacy of Arthur Jones, a 70-year-old who secured a place as a Republican on the November ballot in the Chicago area race for Congress, despite being a Holocaust denier who espouses openly racist views. But he declined to say a Republican should vote for Democratic incumbent Congressman Dan Lipinski, by the way, who I also really, really hate. No, Rauner replied when WCAA TV asked him during a Tuesday campaign stop if voters should cast ballots for Lipinski over Jones. The one thing I will say is that the person, that guy Johnson or whatever his name is, should not be on the ballot. That seemingly begrudging act of distancing himself after Cruz on Friday, Ted Cruz, came out saying to pull the lever for the Democrat or write another candidate apparently is a bridge too far for the government. Just literally say write someone in. If you don't want to say vote for the Democrat, say write someone in. I mean, there literally should be laws against Nazis running. I wouldn't mind that, honestly. So Ted Cruz says, this is horrific, an avowed Nazi running for Congress. To the good people of Illinois, you have two reasonable choices, write in another Democrat or write in another candidate or vote for the Democrat. This bigoted fool should receive 0 votes. So good job for Ted Cruz, actually throwing his weight around and actually coming out and condemning this. Got to give him credit. Wow. So he was probably triggered off the Political article he just tagged there. Jones has been labeled a white supremacist, a local white supremacist, and longtime neo-Nazi by the Anti-Defamation League. Earlier this year, Rauner said, there is no room for neo-Nazis in American politics. Oh, yeah, look at the top, buddy. Your president. Hashtag not my president. Yeah, I condemn this man in the strongest possible terms, but I was essentially throwing up his hands and saying Republicans did what they could to drive Black Jones from the ballot, including trying to get a third-party candidate to run against him, calling on him to get out, and he should be out, and we should have somebody run against him. There is no room, as I said, right immediately when he snuck on there. There is no room for our politics, for a person like that. He's running against a two-party, Jew party, queer party system. According to himself, Arthur Jones, he laughed when he was informed the GOP might be unable to put a candidate against him. And he said, they didn't put a third-party candidate. Jones asked when reached by phone Thursday, that's great, that's fantastic. I snookered them, he said, of state Republicans. I play by the rules. What can I say? I really don't know how he got 14,600 valid signatures for the third congressional district. Oh my God, that is incredible. He got 14,000 people to say, yeah, I'd vote for a Nazi. Like, what must that have been like? Wow. That's incredible. Anyway, yeah, Mitch McConnell. We're going to move on now to Mitch McConnell, Senate Majority Leader, and a heartless goblin. Mitch McConnell wants us to know that while school shootings are like a total bummer, he, arguably the most powerful politician outside the President of the United States, can't really do anything much about it. Speaking to a group of constituents in Kentucky this week, McConnell claimed that Congress was essentially powerless to stop gun violence in America because he put it, at the federal level, there's much that we can't do other than appropriate funds. I don't want to even do this story anymore. And you know what? The New York Times story, it's a good story, but I don't really care about it. Anyway, we're going to go on to our favorite story of the day. The left celebrates the July 4th by announcing the First Amendment. It's by Robert Trzynski, who is literally the biggest forehead in the world. It's a big forehead boy. Bobby Trzynski. Bobby Traz, that's what I'm going to call him here. The biggest news this week is that the left has officially turned against the First Amendment and freedom of speech, and just in time for the 4th of July. Oh, how sad. Like, it's just so sad. Yeah, the only change is that the goal is being announced openly by the leading publications of the mainstream left. Specifically in a long article in the New York Times warning about how the conservatives weaponized the First Amendment. Weaponized! That's right, they're giving the First Amendment the same treatment as they gave the Second. Does free speech seem as scary and dangerous as an AR-15 yet? Bobby Traz says here. Yeah, I mean, pretty much what I'm going to guess here is I haven't read the article and I'm too lazy to read the article. But what I guess this is all about here is my sneaking suspicion of knowing the New York Times too damn well is that they put an article and said the conservatives were so smart and so effective by using this free speech on campus issue as such a wedge issue. They're so smart. It's pretty much, and they weaponize it. They use it as a good political issue. And I bet Bobby Travis here didn't read the article as well. Oh no, he tagged it. That's great. Anyway, yeah. So what's wrong with the First Amendment? It protects people the left doesn't like. No, really, that's the argument. That's what he goes on to say. Here's a clip from the article. On the final day of the Supreme Court term last week, Justice Elena Kagan sounded an alarm. The court's first conservative members, citing the First Amendment, just dealt the public employees unions a devastating blow. The day before, the same majority had used the First Amendment to reject a California law requiring religiously oriented crisis pregnancy centers to provide women with information about abortion. Conservatives, said Justice Elena Kagan, who's part of the court's four-member liberal wing, were weaponizing the First Amendment. Yeah, and I don't see the problem. I still don't see what's wrong. Like, I mean, I get where conservatives have their grievances most of the time. I can see where they are, but I'm not getting it. The article laments that free speech arguments at the Supreme Court are mostly used to protect speech by people on the left, saying, quote, because so many free speech claims in the 1950s or 60s involved into anti-obscenity claims or civil rights or anti-Vietnam War protests, it was easy for the left to sympathize with speakers or believe that the speech in general was harmless. Frederick Schauer, a law professor at the University of Virginia, said, but the claim that speech was harmless or casually inert was never true, even if it has taken recent events to convince the left of that. Now the horror of free speech claims are being used to protect Christians and corporations and people who don't like being forced into unions. And how dare anyone stand up for those people? Oh yeah, corporations aren't people. Christians, what's the Christian? Oh, Christians. Yeah, they're really Christians. It's their big issue on the mind. Yeah, I mean, it's what happens. It's what happens here. That it's the problem. What the problem is, and this is a very confusing article to kind of wrap your head around. But I'm trying now to understand. I think becoming a little clearer is because